Hi, ladies. I wanted to start off today's topic when it comes to divine feminine and her stepping into her power as a leader by also talking about our impact on the world in current events. As the divine feminine continues to grow, as we begin to step into our power even more, we're going to notice pushback from the world, from society at large. So don't be surprised if, as an empathic divine feminine, you come home some days and you just feel drained, or you just feel as though you don't have the support you need from the community because you're constantly working for change in our society, right? We're at this critical time right now where, as we're in the Age of Aquarius, our spirit guides want us to fully and wholeheartedly step into our power. That's where we're at now. That's how critical this is. Okay. The divine feminine needs to be able to articulate what her needs are. The divine feminine needs to be able to go after what she knows she desires without doubt, without flinching, without giving up. Okay, this is what the Age of Aquarius is doing. The universe is thrusting the divine feminine towards success. Okay, so this is what we're getting ready for right now. Now, as we talk about the divine feminine in leadership today, a couple of things I think we should get into before we get into what makes a leader, how we can strengthen our leadership abilities, things like that. So before you can even actually embrace who you are as a leader, as a divine feminine, there are some things you're going to have to detox yourself from, right? Stereotypical notions of who you are supposed to be as a woman has to be number one. Okay, because if we were to follow what society tell us, many of us would never step outside of the box to begin with, right? So even embracing what society may deem unladylike can also help you when it comes to going after what it is you actually want, right? So if men have zeal, it's great, but if women have zeal, then that's a problem. And so a lot of this is also undoing the brainwashing that many of us have grown up to experience. We have to overcome that, right? So that's number one. Number two, what our guides are telling us too is that we have to have unwavering dedication regarding our life purpose and our spiritual gifts. Unwavering dedication. That's important. Because here's the thing. We're all going to be hit at the end of the day with various things that may try to impede our growth. That's just life, right? Everything won't always be roses. Everything won't always be easy. That's just how life operates. But when you are certain about who you are, you know who you are. You know what your life purpose is. You're walking in your power. This is how you get from a place of doubt to a place to consistency. This is how you get from a place of fear to unwavering dedication. And one of the things I noticed too about ambitious women is that we don't really fear the project itself, right? So we'll have goals and we know what our goals are. We know exactly what it is we want to accomplish, right? That doesn't scare us. The part that many of us fear is failure. And I think a lot of that has to do with how women are socialized. So, for example, if you notice in our society, anything that women is responsible for, if something was to happen, let's say, for example, society put gender roles on women to always be there for family duties in the home, right? We don't place pressure on fathers to actually be in the home the same way we place the pressure on mothers. This is why we have so many single moms, right? Because society society gives men a pass to do whatever they want for the most part. So let's say, for example, the mother is the one who stayed, which is usually the case. She's the one who is trying to provide for her family. She's the one who's trying to make sure her kids are all set and have everything they need. And even though she is the parent that stayed, even though she is the parent that is looking out for her child's best interest, in our society, she is still judged. Why is she still judged? Well, that's easy. She's still judged because in our society, it is always easier to blame women or to blame someone else that has nothing actually to do with the problem than it is to actually address the problem, right? So it's easier to blame women than to go to men and say, hey, why aren't you stepping up in your child's life, right? So women are always socialized to be perfect in everything we do. So even if you notice like the conversations online, even about family and dating, everything always goes back to the woman. It's always her responsibility, right? And so here's a couple of things that I feel about that. Number one, yes, we do have an obligation to ourselves to make the best decisions possible. Okay, so that's my disclaimer for personal accountability, right? So that's out the way. Personal accountability, yes. But also at the same time, women just don't live on this earth by ourselves, right? We aren't just producing these kids alone, right? It takes two in order to create this family unit or this child. And so what ends up happening is even when you look at the discussion around family life and love and relationships and dating, it always go back to either A, women should choose better, or B, women are superficial gold diggers, or C, women need to just tolerate whatever comes to them in love and relationships because they should be looking at the heart, not anything else. So all of this goes back to the women. If you notice, there is never, ever any accountability with men. And so what we do is we take all of these things that we see society throw at us and we internalize them. So even when it comes to career success, opening or starting up your own businesses, you have internalized this need to be perfect. And you don't need to. You don't need to be perfect. You have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay with failure. You know what? It's not going to be easy as you go out here. Regardless if you want to go the next level in your career, regardless of whether or not if you want to go the next level in your business, you have to be okay with sometimes missing the mark. Because as a woman who's been in her career, I've been in this career for a little while, for my 9 to 5, like close to 15 years. So as a woman who's been in this career for close to 15 years for my 9 to 5, and then also as a business owner who's been in doing this for a little minute now, I can tell you that through my mistakes was how I was able to get back, number one, on my feet, and then also number two, come back better than what I was before. I needed to, quote unquote, fuck up. Because if I didn't, I would not have learned what it is I know now. The older me, the wiser me, the smarter me, the me who went through the hell that I went through because I was not savvy enough to look at all the signs at that moment, it all created the me that I am today. Right? So you have to be okay with failure because failure is a part of the learning curve. Give yourself room to breathe, ladies. Give yourself room to fuck up. Give yourself room to make mistakes. It doesn't mean you're a bad mother. It doesn't mean you're a bad businesswoman. It doesn't mean you're a bad secretary or whatever your job might be. Okay? It just means that you are smart enough to understand that you need to take the lesson from that painful experience and walk away with more wisdom than when you got started, right? So you have to be okay with failure, right? And like I said, you have to fail in order for you to succeed. So we covered that. But the other thing too is once you experience failure, you have to be in a position whereas you know how to measure your success. It's not enough to say, I tried this, boom, it didn't work. Let me try something else. It's not enough to do that. Whenever you learn the lesson, you have to understand the intricacies that that lesson brought to you. So for example, let's take a business example. And you're just starting out on your business and you did this post on social media, right? And you're just learning the ins and outs of Instagram. You did this post and you don't really see the engagement that you're looking for. You're like, Spirit, I don't understand what's happening. I thought that was a good post, right? Because as creators, we're like, this is what I would want to see if I follow a page about so-and-so. And so you posted it and you're like, there's no engagement. What is happening here? Before you say to yourself, okay, that post didn't work, let me try something different, look at the data. This is what I'm talking about measurable success. Look at the data. Okay, go into your insights. If you're talking about Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, go look at your insights. Why did that post fail? Did you post it at the wrong time? When there weren't enough people online? Or did you post it to the wrong audience? Or maybe another post that you did had better engagement because your audience likes this style of you delivering your message versus the previous style. Measurable data. Anything in life, we have to have measurable data so we can work towards success. Another example, let's say it's relationships. And you're like, you know what? The past couple of relationships were terrible for me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that I've made in the previous relationships, right? So let's say for the previous relationship, you met this guy, he was great, and you're just like, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. Now, most people look at dating from the surface level, right? They're like, you know what? I met this guy. He didn't make as much money as I did. He wasn't as intelligent as I did. So let me just, up my standards. Boom, that's it. And usually when women say up their standards, they usually mean like, let me just find someone who makes more money, right? Who's more socially cultured. And there's nothing wrong with that. I teach that. Across the board, hypergamy, I teach it. Do not date beneath your standards. There's nothing wrong with that. But also I tell women too, don't just look at that. Okay? There's some other things that you have to be savvy about too. Look at what other data, what other ways that you can measure the success of your previous relationship. What failed? Were they emotionally available? Did they love bomb you? Meaning they just showered you with I love you and I want to be with you way too early in the game. Something should have said, okay, that's not right? That's a red flag. Love bombing is a narcissistic red flag. So it's not enough to say, okay, I'm just going to date men who's on my level. It's also, you also have to go back and say, I'm going to also date men, women, whomever you believe in dating. And the only reason why I just use the hetero example is because I see it most often in the hetero community. But the other thing that you want to do too is say to yourself, what spiritual, emotional qualities did this person lack? Why couldn't we get on the same page? Because you can easily find someone who makes more money. You can easily find someone who has a higher social standing, but they still might be emotionally inept. You still might run into the same problems. He just has more money, right? So again, or they just have more money rather. So again, it's really, really important for us to go back and look at all of the facts, not just generalizations. If we want to be successful, ambitious women, it's okay to fail, but also if we do fail, we have to look at all of the reasons that contributed to the failure, right? Not just at the surface level. So going back to this broader term of what it means to be a leader, there's 4 things that I thought about would a leader would need in order to be extremely successful. So what constitutes a leader? Number 1, confidence. A lot of women fail to hype themselves up or hype ourselves up. And I'm going to add myself to this because I do this too. And again, this goes back to how we as women are socialized. So we fail to hype ourselves up. We fail to do what it is we need to do in order for us to feel better about ourselves. Because society thrives upon humbling women. Everywhere you turn, is always a product, a service out there to make women better, not because she wants to be better for herself, but because somebody else wants her to be better. Usually it has to do with the male gaze, right? Okay, so confidence, speaking to yourself, understanding that where you are right now is enough. How you look right now is enough. What you're doing right now is enough, right? So throughout the day, I want you to start saying that to yourself. I am enough. This is enough. I've done enough. Okay, I want you to give yourself permission to be. Our male counterparts do it all the time. And we talk about it all the time, don't we, as women? Because we talk about how they only come to the table with the bare minimum. They literally give themselves permission to just be. So we need to take a step back too as women and build ourselves up, right? Not just run ourselves down for the sake of others. What else constitutes being an effective leader? Expertise. Whatever it is you're trying to lead, regardless if it's work, in your career, your business, your family, you have to know what it is you're doing. The learning curve always will exist for us as adults. There is never a point where we stop learning. There is never a point where we become a master of all trades. Okay, we're always in a consistent state of learning. If you want to build your family, of course, what do we have out here to help us with building our family stronger and better? Breaking generational curses. We have therapy, self-help books, right? So many different things that we can do to break generational cycles. If you want to build a business, there's always business coaches. Again, self-help books, classes, education. Career, same thing. Coaches, classes, education. There's always a way for you to build upon what it is you know. You have to present yourself as the expert. You have to present yourself as someone who knows what she's doing. That's how you can be an effective leader. What else constitutes an effective leader? Someone with effective communication. And this is where this comes up a lot with women, right? Because we talked about blocked throat chakras. Blocked throat chakras. This is a problem that many of us have. It comes up so often in many of the coaching sessions and readings that I have, whereas women are just, I'm not going to say afraid. I don't necessarily think it's fear, but we just mince our words a lot, right? Because again, it goes back to socialization. Practice saying what you mean and mean what you say. There are so many great activities out there for you to open up your throat chakra. Singing is a great one. Singing works like a charm for me. Also, putting up boundaries, telling people no, it's okay. Trust me, they'll be okay. You have to do what is best for you at all times. Again, you have to do what is best for you at all times. If this is something that you're struggling with, go to your spirit guides, go to your ancestral guides, ask them for support, ask them for guidance, ask them to help you stand in your power so that you're not accepting the bare minimum from other people. What constitutes an effective leader? Articulation. The ability to say what you mean in a concise, precise, effective way. Be able to be okay with speaking your truth. Again, people will have to learn how to deal. As women, we're just afraid to hurt feelings, right? We're afraid to be our authentic selves. We are afraid to say, you know what? This is just not a good idea. Especially that's the case in the workplace, in business. And sometimes people need to hear what other ideas are there. Now, of course, there are professional ways to present what it is you're saying, right? And we should always operate in that way. But also at the same time, don't be afraid to say, this is my idea. This is what I think can work. This is what I want to do with this idea, right? Don't be afraid to go after what you know to be effective. So, for the divine feminine leadership, this is what Spirit is saying. As we further go into the age of Aquarius, we're going to have to develop our confidence. We're going to have to continue with our education, take classes, self-help books, go back to school, whatever it is for you to build upon your expertise. Do that so you can be dominant in your field. Have effective communication. Work on blocked throat chakras. And also be able to articulate yourself well, whereas you can express your viewpoint in a concise and precise way. We want to be effective leaders in 2022 and beyond, because Spirit is calling the divine feminine to step up, right? So, if this is something that you're struggling with, ask your guides to help you. Look for mentors to help you. Your spirit guides will always put resources in your path. You're never alone on this journey, hon. Never. Your spirit guides will always put resources in your path. Okay? So this is what I have for the divine feminine and leadership portion. We're going to be talking about this throughout the entire Empress Agenda Program. So we're going to be talking about leadership, stepping into our power, articulating ourselves, being professionals, building businesses, just the whole 9 yards. So this is not the end of this conversation, but this is just the beginning. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, if you do have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer them for you, ladies. Take care and have a wonderful week ahead.